Good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you may be. I get asked this question a lot. And so I thought I would address this and give the explanation of 0 versus 20 MOA in the base and or scope base or the unimount. And so people get really freaking confused and they ask all the time, like, well, should I buy a 0 or a 20 MOA mount, like a Badger, a Spur, a Reptilia, Geisley, whatever. So, Bobro. So this is why this is a thing. What is a 20 MOA base? Whether it's on the pick rail on a precision rifle or 20 MOA built into the scope mount itself. So how does a scope work? So a scope is a tube with another tube inside of it. And what it is there's little tiny screws on top and bottom that as you dial the erector or the turret on top, you're actually dialing that inner tube up or down. And that is what you're adjusting. And there's only a limited amount of movement in that tube. And so you use that use up some of that movement to zero the gun. And so on a regular rifle, say scope and barrel, if you have 0 MOA and that in your base on the rifle itself, so the pick rail, like on an AR-15 or a precision rifle, if it really truly was 0, what it's doing is it's setting a parallel path between the scope and the barrel and the bore line, right? And so to adjust your scope down, like you have to then adjust the reticle down to meet the bore line. You're not actually making any adjustments on the gun itself. You're not dialing where the barrel sits. The gun shoots where it's going to shoot. So what you're going to do is you're going to adjust the turret that pushes the reticle down. Because what that does is it forces the barrel to elevate, creating a convergence point, which then is your 0. And then as you dial out to distance, you say dial up, but what you're doing is you're actually dialing the reticle down. Dialing the reticle down then elevates the barrel more, which then causes a higher arc, which pushes your bullet farther out. So it's a whole long way to say, if you have 0 MOA, you're using a lot of that internal travel to dial this reticle down to meet that, to create a convergence point. We add 20 MOA in the base, whether that is, again, the pick rail on a precision rifle or the base on an AR-15 to do this. What it is so this is a straight base right here. This is a canted base. So what does that do? That takes up some of that distance, like right here, how they're straight and they stay the same. That I have to make that up with my adjustments. If you can't the base, you then open up some of the inner adjustments inside the scope caused by the scope base. And so you've now given a mechanical cant to the optic, which then means you need to adjust it down less to create a good 0. And what that means is you then free up that adjustment of being able to dial down. And so what I see at classes is guys go run like a 193 mount, Badger mount, because they listen to the internet, and they put it on a 13.9, and they create this really high bore height. And they get a 193 with 0 MOA because somebody said they don't fucking need it. And then what they do is you basically have to dial so much to create a 0, like a convergence, that when we go out to true and I tell them to dial their optics, like they have like 4 or 5 mils of travel and literally their turret stops moving because they've taken up all of that internal measurement inside. They've basically bottomed out that tube, just getting a 0, and there was nothing left. There is no downside to putting 20 MOA in your base, especially for scope carbines. Now, people always ask me, well, then should I stack them? No, that's not. There's a definitely a point of diminishing returns. And if you're shooting really, really far, then maybe that might be a thing for you that you want to do like a 30 or a 40 MOA base. Or you could do a 20 MOA on the gun and a 20 on the scope base, but that's usually for ELR guns. What I'm saying is for 20 MOA as a rough like frame of reference, you can take, and if you are shooting an AR-15 or an AR-10, that pick rail that runs along the top has no cant. So there is no downside to putting it in the base. And what you do is you free up some of that internal travel in your turrets to then adjust and use it. Yeah, it's a 20 MOA decline. So you free up that adjustment in your scope. So yes, on an LPVO, on those types of things, you aren't going to be dialing a lot. That doesn't mean you'll never dial. And if you come to a class like mine, we're going to push those guns as far as you possibly can. And so we dial. And we dial to true. So that way I have an actual frame of reference of what you have dialed on your gun to true your ballistic app. So hopefully that helped. People ask me all the time about that on 0 versus 20 MOA. There's a lot of guys out there who really don't understand how scope works. And so they just say, run 0 because you don't fucking need it. Yes, you do. Because there's only a limited amount of travel inside the scope. You get no downside, but gain an upside. And 20 MOA ends up being like almost 6 mils, around 6 mils. So you gain the ability to then dial that much more elevation inside your scope. So hopefully that helped. I'm going to keep doing these little quick videos, and I'm posting them to YouTube as well if you guys aren't following over there, and trying to dispel some of these myths. I've got a bunch of them that I want to cover in the next probably month or so. I'm going to get Scott Peterson from the AMU to help me on a couple of them, because that way we get two people saying the exact same thing, and sharing's caring. So if you guys aren't following Veracity Solutions, good buddy of mine, Scott's a phenomenal shooter, and so go follow him. Anyways, I'm Joe, Bruiser Industries. I'll catch you guys next time. I'm out.